Okay, let's look at your production analysis. I should say analyses, because you're going to do two of them. We will discuss at a different time what shows you're going to see, but you're going to see two shows this term and write a short response to each one of them, and using the following questions as guidelines for your response. So, like I said, there'll be another place where you'll find out what shows to go see, how you see them, and what have you. But for those two shows that you see, one midterm and one at the end of the term, you will see two theatrical presentations. You'll submit a 500 to 1,000 word response. It's not long, and just because it's not long doesn't mean that it's not chock full of awesome stuff. It means that it is a very concise response to all of these questions. All of these questions you do have to respond to in some way. This is an exercise in business style writing, as I may have mentioned in other videos or other places in the course. It's writing in a very concise way, but expressing very succinctly your very important ideas. I think, for example, like if you send somebody an email, I know for myself, when I open an email that's takes up more than the whole screen, I do not want to read it. So people don't like to read these days. Who knows if they ever really did like to read dry, unfun stuff, but not that this is going to be unfun, but this is an exercise in expressing yourself very succinctly. So don't think just because it's, a maximum of 1,000 words, this will take me 20 minutes to write. Those 1,000 words, those 500 to 1,000 words need to be awesome. What I suggest that you do is just write it, just let the words flow, don't worry about how long it is, and then you go back and take out all the filler. So let's look at this more specifically. It does not have to be formatted as a formal essay. It can just simply be a list of responses to these questions. That's fine. If you would rather it be a formal essay, that's fine too. However, 1,000 words is not a lot for an essay. So it's probably going to be more like a list of responses to these questions. Where was I? So just because it's not an essay doesn't mean it does not have to contain correct grammar and all that fancy stuff. It still needs to do that. Now, question number 1 is the most important part of this assignment. What was the director's purpose, message, or concept? What was the point of the production? What is the director saying about what it means to be a human being living in the world today, etc.? You might not hit every single part of that, but you get the idea. And how did the director use the actors, the design and technology of the theater to tell the story and to reinforce these ideas? It's really important to bear in mind, please listen to this very closely. It's really important that you are writing a response to this production, not to the play. You should not be able to write your production analysis based on just reading the play, or even worse, just reading about the play. Every play could be produced a million different ways. So one of the skills that you're developing in this class is the ability to see the difference between this interpretation of the play versus another interpretation of the play. Perhaps even you're developing the skill of being able to read a play and imagine many different types of productions. So if you can look back and read your paper before you submit it and realize, I really could have written this just by reading the play, then you need to tweak the submission. I'll talk about that more, I think, in a bit. But how did this director interpret the story to make a point? And what was their point? That's basically what you're saying. So, question number 1.5, you will look at the critical theories that we looked at. Include at least one reference to one of the critical theories and what the play says about the topic of that theory. So this is I say it's 1.5 because you can probably tie that into what was the director's point of the production in general. Bonus if you use more than one theory. Good for you. And then we get into some specific questions. Some of these questions are going to take more words to answer than others, but what was the inciting incident of the play? Shouldn't be too hard to describe. This is one that you can answer just from reading the play. but it will probably be highlighted by, maybe I should have said here, how did the director highlight the inciting incident of the play? But how would you describe the structure of this play as informed by course content? So I'm looking for vocabulary words here. Who do you consider to be the main character, and what was their super objective, which is their life goal, as we talked about with the acting discussion? Also, what was their obstacle and action just for the entire play? Describe what did this character do? What did they want? What was in their way? And what did they do to overcome it? If you had to guess, did this actor take an internal or an external approach to developing their character? And most importantly, what did you see in their performance that made you draw this conclusion? So, a couple more. 7 and then 10. Ha ha ha. Hang on a minute. You gotta love Google Docs. I actually edited these down quite a bit. There were more questions that were asked in the past. So 7. Based on your knowledge of course content, how did the sets, lights, and costuming affect the storytelling? There might be a little bit of overlap with question 1, but try to really zoom in on the technical elements here. And what was the goal for the design, and how did they achieve their goal? How did the course content on theater history from your viewing understand this production? This question is important. Frequently, I shouldn't say frequently, but there are occasions where I've gotten a production analysis and the student would just say, I don't know, or I'm not sure, or it didn't inform it. It's your job to apply that the theater history content to a production. So here's some guidelines, some really important stuff to pay attention to. There is a rubric that I use to grade this by, and it's accessible to you on Moodle, so you really should look at that before you write it. Please submit only your responses to the questions. Don't cut and paste those questions and then fill in with your answers, because that really messes up the word count. And however, I would like you to number your answers so I know which question you think you're answering. Submit only your responses to these questions. Do not include the text of the questions. But please do number your responses, 1 through 8. Do include a word count. Let me know that you know that I know that you know how many words are in this submission. Now, responses should utilize vocabulary and concepts from class. Use at least 5 advanced vocabulary words. Words from class, words that you did not know before taking this course, and they should be words that are specific to the theater. So if you learned an awesome new word, great. But what I'm looking for is your ability to use the language of the theater. So if it's an awesome new word, make sure that it is specifically something that is unique to the theater. A word that you could show off if you were talking to a bunch of theater people and they would know, oh, that's a theater word. Please put the 5 words that you choose. Remember, there are 5 of these words. Put them in bold and caps so that I know that these are the words that you're using. Do not use the word verisimilitude. There are many reasons I don't want you to. I'll just save us some time, and please just do not use that word as one of your 5. You can use it, but it's not going to be one of your 5. It's often used incorrectly, and there is like a neon sign on that word that tells every student, you must use this word. It's a long word. It's fancy. It means stuff. Do not use that word. It is so obviously a word that students use just to be using a vocabulary word. That's not what I want. I want to see you functionally using the language. So here we go to reinforce what I said before, and I'm going to reinforce it because it is important. This is my only opportunity to verify that you actually saw this production. So responses should clearly indicate that you saw this particular production as opposed to just read about the play or other productions of it online. The most common instance of plagiarism I get in this class is students who are writing a production analysis based on just reading about a play online. Please don't do that. I will know you did it because the production you saw is probably not going to be the Broadway production, and most of those reviews that you see online are all about Broadway shows. So you're analyzing this company's choices, not the playwriting. Yes, a couple of those questions are playwriting questions, but that big question, what was the point of this production, is all about this production, not just the play. Excuse me. Your what does it say? Read your response beforehand, and if, like I said, if you could have written this about reading the play, then redo it. You don't have to be nice. Express what you really feel. Now, don't be insulting. There's no reason to do that. But you are an informed audience member now. Even by midterm, you know more than most people who go to the theater. You have had more vocabulary thrown at you. You have wallowed around with what actors and directors and designers do. So you trust your opinion. It is one of the outcomes of this class to embrace failure. You might be wrong and fall flat on your face, but go for it. You probably won't be wrong. Everybody's opinion is valid. This is short. Couple really important things here. Do not use up this valuable word count to define terms or describe what you saw. So, and here's an example, these are things that students throw in there to prove that they know the definitions or whatever. If you use the words correctly and you're using concepts from class, you don't need to prove to me that you know it. For example, a good actor should play a clear objective and obstacles and be free of physical tension. That's a whole bunch of wasted words right there. Just talk about the acting you saw. Really, really super duper important. There is no room for description. Do not summarize the plot. You will not get credit for this assignment if you just give me a plot description, or if you just describe things about the play, the production. You may refer to things. You might say, in Act 2, when the lead character makes her grand entrance in her yellow dress, the dress was symbolic of blank, Don't tell me, in Act 2, Scene 1, the main character comes down the stairs in a red dress with bugle beads that is very tight-fitting with high-heel shoes and her hair done up in a blah, 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 blah. That's a whole lot of wasted words. Yes, you might have to refer to something, but you will not describe it. There are simply not enough words available in this assignment to do that. The most common mistake students make is they summarize the plot. Assume I saw it. Assume I know what you're talking about. I strongly recommend that you write your analysis with no concern for word count. Let the words just flow, and then go back and edit. That late work is accepted. Graded assignments turn in within 1 week of the due date will earn a 10% deduction. And if you turn it in between the due date and the drop dead date, there will be, if you turn it in between 1 week late and the drop dead date, there's a 20% deduction. If I'm not making sense, just look back at this document because it's all written down. Yeah, that's what it says. And bear in mind that the late deduction is applied to the grade that you earn. If you turn it in, 3 weeks late, you don't automatically get an 80, for example. So that's the production analysis. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.